Hey folks, how's it going? There are more layoffs coming for 2023. The year is off to a rough start already, and I've got a couple of articles here talking about some of the layoffs that are already have already been announced. They're already in the works. The first article is from finance@yahoo.com. Layoffs are sweeping corporate America to kick off 2023. Fresh job cuts are in the works already this year at Amazon, Salesforce, Goldman Sachs, and Vimeo. This came out on January 5th. As recession fears swirl, a fresh round of layoffs is in the works for at least 4 corporate giants to start the new year. Amazon CEO Andy Jassy said late Wednesday the company would cut just over 18,000 jobs. A higher reduction than initially planned. Jassy's message came the same day Salesforce said it would slash 10% of its workforce, while Vimeo cut headcount by 11%. And it's not just tech workers being let go. Goldman Sachs is reportedly hashing out plans to part ways with up to 4,000 bankers any day now, according to a year-end audio message from CEO David Solomon to staff of last week. This year's layoff announcements come as U.S. companies grapple with inflation, high interest rates, and a deteriorating economic environment that has prompted both need and precautionary cost-cutting measures, especially after many overhired during the post-pandemic boom in 2021. Amazon has weathered uncertain and difficult economies in the past, and we will continue to do so, Jassy said in his message to Amazon staff. Companies that last a long time go through different phases. They're not in heavy people expansion mode every year. The e-commerce giants first said in November that about 10,000 jobs would be axed. Jassy's remarks were echoed ones from Salesforce CEO Mark Benioff, who said in an email to staff on Wednesday the decision resulted from an environment that remains challenging and more measured spending by customers. I've been thinking a lot about how we came to this moment, Benioff wrote. As our revenue accelerated through the pandemic, we hired too many people, leading into this economic downturn we're now facing, and I take responsibility for that. Amazon employed 1,544,000 people as of September 30th, up from 1,468,000 during the same period in 2021. Late last year, Facebook parent Meta Platforms announced plans to lay off 11,000 workers, or 13% of its overall workforce. Twitter laid off half its workforce in November under Musk's new leadership. This is a slightly older article, but I want to go over this one because it ties into another article I've got here that I wanted to read to you. A similar trend is surfacing in the finance industry, which also hired aggressively as it benefited from post-pandemic economic and financial market boom. Goldman Sachs' Solomon admitted last month in an interview at the Wall Street Journal's CEO Council Summit the company hired at a frenzied pace to keep up with record deal-making activity at the time. The company is now partially reversing those hires as investment banking revenues have dropped. Even as U.S. tech workers face layoffs, data continues to show labor conditions remain ultra-tight. Monthly payroll gains averaged 391,000 across 2022. Weekly filings for unemployment insurance have not budged much above 200,000, and on Wednesday, the latest job openings and labor turnover survey showed a higher than expected 10.5 million job openings. The Labor Department will publish its job report for December at 8:30 on Friday. I meant to look that up, but I didn't. I apologize for that, folks. Economists expect non-farm payrolls to rise by another 200,000 jobs, according to the estimates from Bloomberg. According to data tracker Layoffs.fyi, tech companies have collectively laid off 153,000 workers, 153,678 workers last year. That's more than roughly 80,000 layoffs in the sector at the onset of the pandemic in 2020. underscoring that recent reductions are likely a consequence of hiring overzealously during the tech boom in 2021. Latest job cuts reports from employment firm Challenger Gray and Christmas also showed tech companies led announced layoffs for all of 2022, with 97,171 job cuts expected, a whopping 649% surge from 2021. The troubles in the tech space were even acknowledged by Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, who said during a press conference last month that these layoffs are a story unto itself. And Bank of America's Michael Gapin pointed out that while the latest data shows a very healthy labor market and an apparent mismatch from anecdotal evidence, tech layoffs may not show up in the employment data for as long as laid-off workers are receiving severance. All right. Again, that's an older, that article's like 4 days old, because I believe, you know what? I believe I didn't print out that article that I intended to. Okay, so the last article I saw about Amazon, that number had increased from 10,000 to 18,000. So that number has almost doubled since that article came out, because I just saw another article and I intended to print it out. I apologize for that, folks. There's just so many articles, it's hard to keep track of them all. At the time of that one 4 days ago, Amazon was going to lay off about 10,000. Excuse me, I'm sorry. The company would cut just over 18,000 roles. I'm sorry. So yeah, that is 18,000 jobs right there, just from Amazon. There's so much coming out so fast. It's really hard to keep up with all of these numbers. McDonald's CEO says layoffs are coming. This is from CNN. I actually don't have the date on this article. But McDonald's is planning to cut some of its corporate staff, CEO Chris Kipczynski said in a memo to employees Friday. We will evaluate roles and staffing levels in part of the organization, and there will be difficult decisions and discussions ahead. Certain initiatives will be deprioritized or stopped altogether. This will help us move faster as an organization while reducing our global costs and freeing up resources to invest in our growth. McDonald's has been a star of the pandemic. People ordered more takeout from the company during the early days of COVID, and sales have surged over the past year as inflation sent restaurant goers looking for cheaper options. But the company said it's not resting on its laurels, the CEO said, outlining a plan to break down internal barriers, grow more innovative, and reduce work that doesn't align with the company's priorities. McDonald's also plans to accelerate the pace of its restaurant openings to respond to increased demand. The company said it sees an opportunity for further growth in many of its major markets. While there's a lot for us to be proud of, you've also told us that there's more we can do. Kipczynski wrote to the employees. We're performing at a high level, but we can do even better. The company has to become faster, more innovative, and more efficient, he said. In an interview with the Wall Street Journal on Friday, Kipczynski said that means the company will announce layoffs. So they're planning to open more stores, but they're also planning layoffs. I guarantee you a lot of those new stores are going to have the self-order, are going to have the kiosks for customers to place their own orders. There's going to be a lot more replacement of employees with automation where possible. That's just what I'm expecting based on what I'm reading here. Because you can't lay off a large number of people and then open up stores too. It doesn't work that way. Some jobs that are existing today are either going to get moved or those jobs may go away. No, there you go. There you have it. McDonald's says it plans to communicate its future staffing plans by April 3rd. Kipczynski said he expects to save money as part of the staffing changes, but doesn't have a set dollar amount to slash or a number of jobs he's looking to cut, the Journal reported. McDonald's had around 200,000 corporate staff and workers at company-owned restaurants at the end of 2021, according to its latest annual report. More than 75% of them are based outside the United States, More than 2 million people work at McDonald's franchised locations around the world. All right, so, yeah, I mean, if you're going to open more stores and lay off people at the same time, you've got to have automation in there. These computerized kiosks where customers place their own orders, you don't have a cashier there to take the order. You're going to see more of that. You're going to, over the past couple of years, McDonald's and other restaurants like that have been looking at ways of automating the burger making process. So I'm expecting some automation to come out of this. This article is from newsbreak.com. It just came out. Shoppers upset as 5 popular retailers announce permanent closures. In the past week, several popular retailers have announced plans to close their stores. These closures may be due to inflated cost of goods and increased thefts at retailers across the country. The retailers include Macy's, Bed Bath & Beyond, Sears, Morph, and Joann. Walmart and Target are also talking about if they can't get theft and losses under control, that they will be looking at restructuring or closing some stores. So theft is hitting Walmart, Target, and other stores like that very hard. They're losing a large amount of money due to theft, and that theft is being attributed to not just customers but also employees. These closures will affect a significant number of stores and states across the country. Many of the retailers cited a shift towards online shopping as a contributing factor to the closures. Okay, so Macy's announced that it will be closing approximately 125 locations over the next 3 years, representing a fifth of the retailer's stores nationwide. 33 stores have already closed by the end of December, and the closures will affect 18 states in total. Macy's cited a shift towards online shopping as a contributing factor to the closures and hopes to boost online sales while lowering in-store inventory. That's probably a trend that you're going to see happen at more stores, trying to transition from retail brick-and-mortar stores to online platforms. Bed Bath & Beyond in September 22, Bed Bath & Beyond announced that it will be closing 150 stores, including several in New York. The closures will span across most of the country from California to North Carolina. The closures began at the same time that the store laid off 20% of its corporate employees. Earlier this week, Bed Bath & Beyond announced that it is considering bankruptcy as it runs out of cash and looks for new strategies to increase sales. Sears will be permanently closing all 115 of its branches in operation. The retailer filed for bankruptcy protection last month and had liquidation sales with prices up to 40% off. Morph quietly shuttered stores throughout the holiday season with rumors that the retailer only gave staff 4 days' notice. A representative from the brand confirmed that some U.S. stores are closing, but did not share the number or the locations. Joann Arts and Crafts Supply Store announced that it will be closing 8 locations across the United States over the course of 2023. The closures will begin on January 22nd, while Joann continues to operate the majority of its 842 stores. Joann saw a resurgence in sales during the coronavirus pandemic as people spent more time at home doing arts and crafts. However, as people returned to their prior social activities, the retailer saw a decrease in customers driving sales traffic. So the conclusion. Over the past week, several popular retailers have announced plans to close their stores due to inflated cost of goods and increased thefts, as well as a shift towards online shopping. The retailers include Macy's, Bed Bath & Beyond, Sears, Morph, and Joann, and the closures will affect a significant number of stores and states across the country. Other retailers that have closed stores in recent months include Kroger, which closed several stores in the Atlanta area due to unrenewed leases, poor performance in specific areas, and Family Dollar, which closed an Ohio location, and a Little Chute, Wisconsin unit due to economic uncertainty and inflation. This is a trend that's going to continue throughout 2023. There was another article, and again, I meant to print it off, but I lost track of it. It was probably, I don't know, probably about 8-9 pages long. And it just listed closures and layoffs one after the other. I'll see if I can find that and do another video on that one if I can. I'll look for it again. But layoffs, closures, bankruptcies, we're going to see a lot of this in 2023 in the retail sector. Simply because inflation is high. It's come down a little bit from its peak, but it's still high. We haven't felt the full impacts of the Fed rate hikes. That's still to come. We don't know exactly what that's going to do to the market, but we can kind of guess. This is all putting a strain on the labor market. People have less money to spend on luxuries and incidentals. They're having to focus on what they actually need. So be prepared for more layoffs, more store closures, more bankruptcies. Things are going to get tight over this next year, folks. If you have money, don't be buying things unnecessarily. That's just my personal advice. If you do need to make a major purchase, make sure you can pay for it with cash. Do not take out loans if there's any way possible. Now is definitely not the time to buy a home or a house or take out a new mortgage or buy a car or anything like that, unless you have guaranteed secure income. Layoffs are continuing. Even with the company I've worked for, they're still laying off people. It's still happening with no end in sight. A lot of people are worried. A lot of people around the country are worried right now. So you know what's coming. You see the effects around you. You see the little signs telling you we're headed into a very bad year economically. So take that to heart. Look at your situation. Figure out what it is you can do to cut costs. Perhaps you even want to look out for a second job, a part-time job if possible. If you don't have a side hustle going right now, I would highly recommend starting one. Everybody keeps talking about us going into a recession this year. We're already in a recession. I don't understand why people are not willing to admit that. We're already in a recession. And by all accounts, this is looking very much like we're heading into another Great Depression. There's so many patterns that we're seeing right now that mirror the 20s, 30s, and 40s. That time period there, the boom of the 20s going into the 30s with the stock market crash, and then the World War II and 40s, we're seeing a lot of the same things happening now. And you would be foolish not to pay attention to what happened in the past and understand that that could be signs and red flags as to indicating what's going to be happening this year and next year. So take the lessons where you can, be aware of what's going on, and take the appropriate steps, folks. I hope you found this useful. I appreciate you watching. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't. I appreciate that as well. As always, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your families, keep prepping, and until next time, folks, I'll catch you later.